The Mavericks have real interest in Boston guard Jrue Holiday. We're going to tell you why and what we think of that. Coming up next on the DLLS Mavs show. Welcome to the DLLS Mavs show, a cozy edition of your favorite show covering your favorite team, your favorite guys covering your favorite team. See, this is why I can never be Kevin.
I hope it's your favorite show.
It best be. Imagine having a
now that Clarence Hill isn't on the show, it's everyone's favorite show again. All right, that's what I'm learning from the internet lately.
Well, I'm Tim Cato. I am the DLLS Mavs beat writer for this show. Typically, today I'm hosting, covering for Kevin Gray, who is on vacation. And next to me, as always, we've got Clarence Hill, who... Right? No?
No.
Oh.
No, it's Owen Newkirk here, reporting for duty.
Okay.
It's part of Spirit Week.
Nice to have you, Owen. Bobby Karalla, Mavericks, DLLS Mavs analyst, always here, except when he isn't, which is sometimes. But yeah, just us two today. It's Spirit Week. Today's show is driven by you, the Diehard. Anybody who subscribes to DLLS for our written content, for access to the Discord, for discounts on live events, for a million other things. You know, we decided on Spirit Week, it's all about you today. Except for the first segment where we're going to talk about Jrue Holiday because it's some news that we wanted to lead off the show with. But after that, I promise, everybody in the Discord, all of our diehards, have been busy popping some questions, some serious, some not, to me and Bobby. And we're going to answer them. But first off, Jake Fisher, friend of the show, friend of mine, Bleacher Report Live host.
Steinline contributor,
NBA Insider. He, on a Bleacher Report Live show, said that the two teams that he's heard the most, have the most interest in Jrue Holiday have been Sacramento and Dallas. And it seems like a good place to kick this off because, look, I'm going to tell you, yes, I'm saying sources, hashtag sources. I have been hearing that the Mavericks are interested in Jrue Holiday for a while now. I've said this. I've said this in various aspects. This is not, breaking news, but, I'm sure it will be the first time, because of how I'm saying it, that it gets aggregated. But yes, they're interested. Nico Harrison loves two-way players. And it's a safe bet if you look around the league and you look at two-way players who are starting caliber, that Nico Harrison views them very positively. In a lot of instances, more positively than league consensus. Jrue Holiday is absolutely somebody that Nico Harrison has admired, has had interest in, and I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen this summer. I know that they're interested. I know that it's also a very complicated trade to pull off. I am not here saying that they are going to trade for Jrue Holiday. I'm just telling you that their interest, Nico Harrison's interest in Jrue Holiday, who is available, who Boston understands probably they need to move on from, him or at least somebody else. But Jrue Holiday overwhelmingly has seemed like the player likeliest to be moved. Dallas has interest, and there is a possibility that this is somebody Dallas gets to fill what we know is a very crucial, very necessary hole in the roster going into next season with Kyrie Irving missing at least half the season, quite possibly more. They need a guard, and he's on their radar. He's on their list. Again, I'm not here to tell you the likelihood that this is for sure going to happen, but the interest is real. As Jake Fisher reported, as others have reported, as I have been hearing for quite some time now, Nico Harrison really likes Jrue Holiday. This is absolutely something that could happen.
He has still got 3 years and just a tick over $100 million left on his contract. Next season, 25-26, will be his age 35 year. At age 37, he's got a player option for more than $37 million. This is a guy that averaged very low numbers relative to his career averages last season, some of his worst numbers in more than a decade in many respects. And so a lot of fans and people around the league would posit at least that, okay, maybe you can get him for cheap, or maybe even Boston would give out picks. Like maybe you could acquire a couple ones and Jrue Holiday if you're giving out good players.
Kind of a test of the new CBA. It's like, yes, he is in a vacuum, he's a valuable player, but Boston, you have to get off this guy.
Yeah, Boston's got to save money.
Like, shouldn't that swing the pendulum into a team trying to acquire a player that's valuable but is aging, declining?
You would think. But, and this is in a different report. So yesterday, Jake dropped that on a Bleacher Report Live, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark Stein. I'm sorry, but I think in the Stein line, if not, then just on Twitter or somewhere, Jake also himself reported that there are teams that believe Boston believes it can get positive value for Jrue. That not only would Boston not have to send out picks, but Boston might be able to get a pick or two or something, or some really good players back for Jrue. That there are teams that view his contract and his skill set and everything as desirable, not as, well, I like the player, but I don't like what he's making. And as soon as I saw Jake say that, that's whenever I started connecting the dots. Like, all right, yeah, I could totally buy that the Mavs are one of those teams because of Nico's, penchant for acquiring two-way players. Rightfully so. I think
Is that a French word?
Yes, I think. Well, I don't know, maybe.
The way you said it, it better be French.
Penchant.
Yeah.
Jrue was a starting guard and an integral piece to the Celtics finals team just last year. And so I still think he's got some juice. He certainly fits alongside Kyrie or without Kyrie, as evidenced by the fact that he shares a backcourt with Derek White, and he plays well with or without him, with or without Peyton Pritchard, with or without Tatum, whatever. But here's where it gets down to the spooky part, right? Whenever you're dealing from a position of need, you don't have a lot of leverage. Like, you're the Mavs. Let's say you cook up a deal where you can save Boston some money, you can get under the second apron, and you get Jrue Holiday. Well, Boston can say, yeah, that's great, but like this trade is going to help you a lot. We don't really want to just give him away. You're going to have to give us something for Jrue. Whereas if a team already has three guards and they just want Jrue on top of like icing on the cake or whatever, Boston might not view it that way. And that is not to like blow this up into some big, like, let's just bitch about the Mavs situation or whatever, because I've done that enough, Lord knows. But like, whenever you have such a front court loaded team and such a transparent, glaring hole in the backcourt, every team kind of views you that way, and so it's going to be hard, in my opinion, unless the Mavs are taking someone like, let's say they go try and trade for Lonzo Ball, a guy that's dealt with so many injury issues, and he's only making $10 million, but that might actually be an overpay based on his skill set at this point. We don't know. You might not have to worry about the leverage game, but in a situation like this, you do, because every team knows you need a guard. And that's why this situation is kind of frustrating for me, because I love Jrue. I would love Jrue on the Mavs. I would love to root for that guy. I've loved Jrue for a decade now. But I don't want to give up picks for him at this point in his career. He's 35. Like, I don't want that. I want more picks, or I want equal trades.
Yeah, and we don't know that to be the case. We don't know that Dallas for sure would do that. We are connecting dots. But let me tell you three things that I believe about Nico Harrison and his approach to basketball. These are informed by his actual moves, what he's done.
A couple of dribbles of sparkling water just did not make its way into my mouth.
We had actually cut the camera just to me, so you were safe.
I was safe?
That was going to go.
Oh, damn.
That was going to slide by completely unnoticed. You just ratted on yourself.
I got a little stain on my pants now from the sparkling water.
It's always the internal id that's your worst enemy. Mm-hmm. It's the desire to fess up. Yeah. You're too honest of a man. So three things I believe about Nico Harrison, and these are informed from the moves he's done, things he's said, and things I've heard from people around him. First, he values more than anything else his basketball methodology as two-way players. He has said this. All of his moves point to this. It is very obvious he values two-way players. He wants players who are good offensively, good defensively, at as high of a level as he can acquire. Two, he is willing to overpay for the guys he wants. Once again, I think this is pretty obvious through the moves that he has made. Sometimes it's more of a devaluation of the players that he's sending out. And hang on, I have a little bit more about that in point three. Sometimes it is just an idea that he wants PJ Washington, and he's willing to give up an unprotected first-round pick. When he wants players, he will spend draft capital. He will spend what Dallas has available to go get that player. What I will say about this, and what I'll say actually about the first one, Oklahoma City was a team built on two-way players. Other teams around the league, You could make the argument, I'm not sure I agree, but you can make the argument that Orlando, just last week or earlier this week, my goodness, earlier this week, overpaid. I'm not sure I agree, but you can make the argument they overpaid for Desmond Bane because they targeted him as a player that they wanted. Sometimes in the NBA, when you're very close to contention and you feel there is a player, you're missing one player, and you just need to get that player no matter what it takes. Sometimes that is an acceptable way to run a team. I think both of those things in a vacuum are an acceptable way to run a team. Nico Harrison, I think, does the second thing too much. I think he does it way too much. I think there are too many instances of Dallas giving up more than league valuations, more than consensus valuation for a player that has led the Mavericks to expend more value that they've had within their franchise in terms of draft capital, in terms of players that had, players like Quentin Grimes, who maybe weren't long-term fits, but were given up for so little, who were not maximized in what Dallas could do to, keep them around. And then at least if he's going to go out, make sure that you have stuff coming back.
They gave up the better player, better contract, and better pick in one single Quentin Grimes trade.
Exactly. And Caleb Martin was an example of a player that Nico Harrison really wanted, really valued. Lastly, I think that over the course of his moves, Nico Harrison does not value creation as much as I would in the modern NBA. That two-way players is, being competent, being good on offense, being a play finisher is a different skill set than being the primary creator, the initiator, the person who breaks down the defense, not the play starter, but the play finisher. There's a lot of play finishers on this team. And I think if you look at all of that, if you summarize it, and you look at Jrue Holiday, he's a two-way player. He's not a creator, but he is a good play finisher. Certainly he has a lot of offensive value. Nobody would look at Jrue Holiday, even as he's starting to decline, and say that's a bad offensive player. He's a good offensive player. He is a great defensive player, even if he might be.
I still think Drew's very good. I still think he's very good.
Very, very, very good. Nobody's denying that. But I think when you add up those three things about Nico Harrison, and you add up the reporting that Boston thinks some teams might even be willing to get him for positive value, when you add up the fact that I keep hearing interest, that Jake Fisher and others are reporting Dallas has interest in Jrue Holiday, all of these things kind of coalesce into a very consistent ideology. Again, I have differences of how I would go about this, and I think Jrue Holiday is great. But I think it is at least a consistent ideology that we have seen Nico Harrison act from time and time and time again. One other thing that I've reported is that, after the finals loss, going into that summer, Nico Harrison was obsessed, was convinced Dallas was going to end up back in the finals facing the Boston Celtics. That is something that people who were around him told me that he felt when he went about building this roster, building this team. And you could see how a player who just demolished them. Jrue Holiday was awesome in that series. He was, I think he was better than Derek White. Yeah. He was he might have been better than Jaylen Brown.
No, Jaylen Brown was the best player in that series.
No, you're right. He might have been better than Jason Tatum.
There were games where he was. Yeah.
Yes, he was. And the versatility of him to be like a low man, to be the pick setter, to do all these different things on offense, to enable the play initiators as a play finisher, just gave Boston so much versatility. Obviously, Jrue Holiday guarding Kyrie Irving was a huge part of that series.
Had moments against Luka.
Yeah. Now, Nico Harrison did not watch the Mavericks play the Celtics in the NBA Finals and decide, actually, I really like Jrue Holiday. I promise you that is not the case from my understanding. But again, within the lens of this ideology, within this basketball methodology, the way that Nico Harrison views the basketball court, views team building, all of this makes perfect sense to me. Again, whether it happens, that's a different story. And it is a complicated trade. I guess we kind of took up a lot of the segment talking about that. If you want to talk for a second, and
I got a little more to say, but let's hit the break first, and then I'll
let's do that.
I'll take the last word.
All right, we're hopping into a break. A little bit more Jrue Holiday discussion coming up next. Just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day of every single life they have. I'm even talking multiverse stuff. Like, they've got many lives. In every single one of them, they became floor experts. That's how much they care about floors. They care, and they love two-way floors. They love, Empire Today floors. they can defend and they can score. That's what I love about them. I don't know how to continue that analogy. It's kind of not quite working, but I promise you.
But you only have one life,
knows.
and you want a good floor in that one life.
Absolutely. Empire Today is your best bet for new flooring because they live and breathe flooring, and they're going to be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ballgame. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/DLLS for full details.
If you love Wendy's classic frosty flavors, and I do, I ate one yesterday, and I just took, Kat and I took 3 down to the Cowboys crew during their show that hopefully you just watched. Well, we got some big news. There are all new Frosty Swirl and Frosty Fusion flavors you can get in either chocolate or vanilla. It's the same creamy treat that you've always loved, but now with the flavor refresh. What are the new flavors? We got the Frosty Swirls, which include strawberry, brownie batter, and caramel. We've got Frosty Fusions, which includes Oreo brownie, which seems to be our office's favorite, caramel crunch, and Pop-Tart strawberry, which is my personal favorite, and I think I'm not alone in that. Are you going to be a strawberry swirl girl, a caramel craze fanatic, a brownie batter buff? Well, whatever flavor you want, we got one. Whatever flavor you're craving, we've got a Frosty for it. So clock in for
I'm just going to be a Wendy's warrior.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Clock in for a sweet treat anytime, including midnight or later with Wendy's all new Frosty flavors. A refresh on a classic, it's got to be Wendy's. At participating U.S. Wendy's, hours may vary by location. Tim, I guess my closing thought on the Jrue thing and on kind of the way the Mavs have approached like all the negotiations is, and I think this might have been an Athletic article. I don't know. Maybe you reported it. I don't know. It doesn't matter for the sake of this conversation, but Nico is considered to be a guy that is like a very straight shooter, very straightforward, very direct. He's going to tell you what he's thinking.
This is from the Athletic article from Christian Clark.
Okay.
Yeah.
If he likes a player, he's going to tell you he likes the
stuff
player.
I've heard as well, but I think what you're remembering is the Athletic article.
Okay. Yeah, and he's going to say like, yeah, I want that guy. I like that guy. I want to trade for that guy, which is honest, and honesty is good, and recognizing what you want is good. Like these are not like implicitly bad traits to have, but whenever you say I want that guy, you are kind of removing a little bit of sway in the negotiations. And if you're that straightforward, then you're probably going to be like, okay, I want that guy. Tim knows I want that guy. So Tim is like, man, I don't know. I kind of like that guy. Like, you should probably give me like a little bit. I really like this player. The best way I think to get a Jrue Holiday, I'm just an idiot, but like just play along, is to call up Boston and be like, I really want Derek White. Like I love Derek White's game. I think he's a perfect fit on our team. Boston's like, yeah, we really love Derek White too. And it's like, all right, well, we could really use some backcourt help. Y'all are kind of struggling with money right now. Like, is there any way we can maybe work something out for Jrue? Like, you kind of frame it that way as opposed to Jrue is the guy. I want that guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the other part of negotiations is that you have to accept the fact that you might have to fall back to another option. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's... Again, I don't think by any means it's guaranteed or that the likelihood is... I don't know the likelihood. I wouldn't say right now that I am like 80, 90% sure that Jrue Holiday. I wouldn't say I'm anywhere close to that. But again, I wouldn't say I have a good enough read on it to put a percentage on it for sure. So we'll see. I know Dallas has fallback plans. I know that there are other players that they're interested in. And there's a good chance that Jrue is top of that list. And quite frankly, out of all the point guard options, Jrue should be on top of the list. Out of everybody that we've talked about, it is almost certain.
I think Sexton. Well, Sexton's probably not better than Jrue. Maybe, and he might be.
He's the most talented player.
He's younger and
probably on their list of realistic acquisitions.
Yeah.
So that is a reasonable place to start. It's just a matter of, is Dallas comfortable falling back if whatever negotiations happen with Jrue, whatever interest they have, is not what makes the most sense in terms of what they were hoping to spend, to pay, to send out in terms of acquiring him. We are now moving on to...
It's Diehard Day.
It's Diehard Day. Moving on to Diehard questions. You want to kick us off with anything?
Yeah, so it's the last day of Spirit Week here. We've raised more than $10,000 for Big Brothers Big Sisters, first off. So thank you to every single one of you that donated and everyone across the All City Network. Every day we've had a different theme this week. On Monday, we just wore our favorite All City shirts. I was 4 days late, I guess. On Tuesday, we had a
were
mystery
one that
guest
day.
on this podcast. We had Rolando Blackman, Mavs legend, came on the show. Wednesday was Musical Chairs Day, so everyone in the network changed shows, and chaos and wackiness ensued, except for Tanner. Tanner held it down in the producer's chair. Tanner did not hold it down, he's saying. Tanner held nothing on Wednesday.
Were we the only show that didn't retain any?
Rangers did not.
Okay, Rangers also didn't.
Thursday, yesterday, was just we were wearing our shirts and raising money, and we achieved our goal. So today we're giving it back to the Diehards. Today is Diehard Day. We just opened it up in the Diehard Discord. If you become a Diehard, you get access to the Discord and said, hey, Friday, we're talking about whatever y'all want us to talk about. It doesn't matter if we're legally obligated to ignore it. We have to address it. So let's start just really big. Maverick MFFL 41, the first response. Here's mine I want y'all to cover. I stand on the hill that Dirk was better than Tim Duncan, but Tim was blessed with a great roster his whole career, and so therefore that's why he has more awards and more championships. But as a player, Dirk was better. That's a bold way to start off. And you know what? I'm very biased, but that's a great take. That's a great take. I will say confidently that Dirk was a better offensive player than Tim Duncan, but obviously
I think
Duncan
that's
is
safe
like,
to say.
yeah, Duncan is one of the best defenders of all time, and for that reason, I mean, obviously he won a million titles too, but like Duncan was almost as good as Dirk offensively and miles better than almost anyone else defensively in that era, and so I think you have to give it to Duncan, but I think if Dirk was on the Spurs instead of Tim Duncan, the Spurs still would have won a whole lot of titles.
So I think with great defenders, you talk a lot about how they're defensive anchors, and Duncan was that. Duncan was the guy in the middle. He was the elevator. He was the person at the heart of the defense that allowed the success. He is one of the best defenders in NBA history, point blank, bar none. Dirk absolutely gets so much credit for his offense, and I think he should get even a little bit more for the way that he elevated offenses throughout his time.
He's like one of the 10
prime.
best offensive players to ever live, I think.
I really think that's the case. I genuinely do believe that the way that he took Mavericks offenses year over year, often, with a plotting, just incompetent offensive center next to him, the way that he would elevate any offense, any set or collection of guards, the way that he kept doing it after 2011 for several years when he was still in kind of his post-prime, but still one of the top 20 players in the NBA. I think that's evidence. Just it can't be stated. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but Dirk being that type of player from the 4 position is not totally anomalous to Steph Curry and what Steph Curry was doing for the Warriors in 2016. So I think Steph Curry is a top 10 player ever. I think, and maybe like 6 or 7. I think Steph Curry and what he has been able to do is, not even praised to the extent that he is one of the most beloved and celebrated players. I think there's some of that in Dirk Nowitzki as well, where as good as he was offensively and as good as people acknowledge he was offensively, there's still some level of acknowledgement or lack of acknowledgement to how much he elevated any offense he was on, every single player around him.
And the Mavs for like the 5 years of his peak, basically from like 03 through 07, 08, and then his game kind of changed. During that time, they won like 80% of their clutch games. And that might even be low. I think there were years where they won 90% of their clutch games, which is just absolutely absurd. And he was closing. Like the fact that Dirk's career overlapped with Duncan's is unfair to Dirk. It's like any really good chess player right now having to contend with Magnus. It's like you could be great, you could be a 2,800 player, but you're never going to sniff the world title as long as Magnus feels like playing. Yep, and he did that against Gukesh, who's now the world champion, but Gukesh is only the world champ because Magnus stopped playing classical, basically.
Magnus, my twin.
Yeah, Tanner's twin, Magnus Carlsen. This is a good one. This from Ben Selheim. No cowboy hat emoji. Mavericks from 2012 to 2015. That was my favorite time of Mavs basketball. I know we didn't win anything, but man, they were fun teams. That was a extremely fun time. That's the time whenever both you and I started covering the team and working in the league and all that stuff. Those were definitely not the glory days, but they kind of feel like the glory days because
of what came after.
Yeah, and what came right before and everything. Like it was really fun. And we're going to talk about the Vince Carter play and the 14 Mavs here in a little bit, but those were some really, really fun teams. Really, really wild basketball. A whole lot of drama, a whole lot of free agency failures, a whole lot of everything. That was a really fun time.
It was, there was a whole lot of drama. Rajon, I was thinking it was like mostly focused on free agencies, and then I remembered Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, Rondo and Parsons and
Lamar Odom coming in, and I mean Cuban was in charge.
Kardashians.
There was what?
Yeah, Chloe was at all the games, and Mavs blew up a title team,
and the one that was with Chris Humphries, right?
Kim. That's before.
Oh,
that's even more of the glory days.
Yeah. No, those teams
get your Kardashian timeline in order, dude. Come on.
Those are really fun. Those are really fun teams. Jose Calderon, Monte Ellis, obviously, Vince Carter, who we're going to talk about a little bit more.
Jay Crowder, who I stood 10 toes down saying he was a good NBA player. I fought Kirk Henderson so much on the internet about Jay Crowder back in the day, like in the early Twitter days, and I was right. Jay the Beast Crowder is a good player. He had a great career.
You ready for another question? Do you have more to say about that?
No, I don't think so. Do you want me to? How do we want to do this? Do you just want to pick some, or do you want me to pick some? Or
I think we're just kind of both picking some. And
all right.
Unless you just want to carry it. Here,
no.
I'm going to throw one out right now.
Okay.
You've got. I think your list is a little bit more expansive than mine. But
okay.
I wanted to answer Elliot E's. He wants us to rank the best names throughout NBA history.
Ooh.
And he says he'll help us out and say if Jerry Stackhouse is not in the top 5, you are doing it wrong.
Jerry Stackhouse.
Great name. Top 5 though. That's such hallowed grounds.
It is.
Nick Van Exel.
That's a great name.
Such a great name.
Trigger warning. You've been warned. I think Dwayne Wade is a great basketball name. I think Dwayne Wade and LeBron James are both incredible basketball names. Incredible basketball names. What about Muggsy Bogues? Incredible name.
That's a very good name.
Amazing name. Other players of that era.
Tariq Abdul-Wahad.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're barking up the right tree there.
Yeah.
Christian Laettner, I think, is a really cool name. I think that's a cool name. How about?
That's not bad.
How about
Mo Bamba? Sarah says Mo Bamba.
Mo Bamba is a great name.
Mo Bamba is
wow.
Yes.
That is choice.
Yeah.
That is choice.
Man, we were doing this right before, and now I'm blanking all the ones that I rattled.
You're just crumbling under pressure. I mean, like the classic ones, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson are both awesome.
Fantastic.
I think.
Ones.
All right, so this might upset the masses.
Haywood Highsmith.
Haywood
was the one
Highsmith
that I brought up to you. There's a modern new one, but that's just incredible name. Way better. It's like the second Pokemon evolution, and we got Pokemon talk coming at some later point.
We do,
but it's like the second Pokemon evolution of Brendan Haywood.
Yeah,
so it's like what if you had like half of a cool name and made it all the way? Honestly, Brendan Haywood is not a cool name. Haywood by itself is not cool. Haywood Highsmith.
Magnifique.
Woo!
Magnifique.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Muggsy Bogues sounds like the manager of like the 1925 Mets. But also a really good basketball player. And basketball player name. I think Lou Alcindor is a great name. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is also a great name. So I think Kareem and Lou are tied there.
I like that.
How about that?
I like that. Yeah, I don't feel right ranking one or the other. They're just both very cool. They play off each other, I think, really well as well. So.
Mo Cheeks, great name. World Be Free, incredible name.
I have
God Sham God. That is obviously that's a goated name.
God Sham God. I mean that's easy top 5.
Zion Williamson is also.
I have an appreciation. I have a soft spot for the utilitarian names. Brandon Bass, alliteration, and for a player like that, if he was a guard, it wouldn't work. If he was a guard, I never would have brought it up. Brandon Bass is not a guard. Brandon Bass, the 4-man who had the most reliable 15-foot jumper, baseline jumper
I've ever seen in my life.
Who loved to dunk. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That is so good. Alonzo Mourning. It's a good shout.
Alonzo Mourning is really good. That's really strong. And I guess it depends on what you value, because there are guys that have kind of like funny names, but then there's also guys that have
like
real Grady Dick is really, I mean, that's funny, Magic Johnson is also kind of funny if you're in that mindset. But then there's also really like powerful names, like fearsome names that instill fear. Like Grady Dick could instill fear in you. You know, Allen Iverson I think is cool. Like these names that are like kind of unique. Like Jalen Rose was the first Jalen, and Rose is also a sick last name. Jalen Rose is a great name, but I feel like if Jalen Rose came along now, his name wouldn't be as cool. But the fact that he was the first Jalen, played in the 90s when everything was just cooler, like, and is kind of a cool guy. I feel like Jalen Rose is an elite name.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. That's so fantastic. And in terms of like, there's been trend stories written about how Jalen has exploded in popularity. It's very easy in this exercise because these names are freaking cool to be like Peja Stojakovic. And yeah, that's a cool name. I also love like finding the American, you know, like in the mass of American names that we all know, like finding something that's like, that one's different. That's not John Lure.
Yeah.
That's not John Smith.
Yeah.
You know, that's not Barry. What Barry am I thinking?
Barry Switzer?
No. What's the Barry I'm thinking of? The
Bonds?
Shooter. The shooter.
Barry.
John Barry. Yeah, it's just finding stuff that pops. DeMar DeRozan. That's a really cool
DeMar
one.
DeRozan. Von Wafer is a great name.
Oh my God, Von Wafer.
I think Sam
so cool.
Dallenberg is a great name.
For a center. Again.
Yeah, for a center, yeah.
Some of this is that it fits who they are.
But there's some like, okay, so I actually...
It's a heavy name.
Yeah.
For a big player. Just like Brandon Bass is a heavy name for a big man who loved to dunk.
Yeah. When I was like 20 or 21 and doing what 20 and 21-year-olds do with all of my friends, one night we had a very long conversation explaining to each other and like totally agreeing that, you know, basketball names kind of sound like basketball names. Like LeBron James sounds like a basketball name. Terrell Owens sounds like a football name. You know, like I don't think LeBron James sounds like a football name. Just like Christian Laettner doesn't really sound like a baseball name.
Yeah.
It sounds like a basketball name.
Okay, let's agree to something right now. If we think of any more names the rest of the show,
shout them out.
Just say them.
Shout
them
out.
And then we'll keep moving back to the question we're on.
Yeah.
We're going to take another break, but we got more of your questions coming up next. Hang with us. Game Time is the right place to buy tickets for literally any event you're trying to go to this summer or this fall or this winter or the next spring. But this summer, there's so much going on. I know everybody, you know, summer's usually more of a dead period, but not really the case this summer, for better or worse. But not really the case with Club World Cup going on in America. You can get tickets to games. There's a Game 7 happening in the NBA.
It's gonna be tough to get tickets to that one.
Might be a little bit tough, but hey, if you're in Dallas, it's not far away. So, Game Time makes getting tickets easier and faster, even for hard to get playoff seats. Again, Game 7, NBA Finals might be the hardest to get one, but I promise if you're trying, if you have any inkling or desire or wealth fund that is going to allow you to try to get a ticket to Game 7, I promise you, Game Time is going to make it a little bit easier to both attend that game and also buy that yacht.
And a little bit cheaper. A little bit cheaper,
too. Exactly. You still got to save up for the yacht. They have killer last-minute deals. They've got views from your seat, so you know exactly where you're sitting. Exactly what the view is going to look like. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Game time?
Game time.
It's also, and always, Bud Light time. It's always a good time to drink Bud Light responsibly. Stanley Cup finals are over. The Star season is over, but their off-season has already started. So if you were out celebrating Matty Duchene's well-deserved new contract, or maybe if you're mourning Mush Marchment's trade to the Seattle Kraken, well, hey, toss on your jersey, have a good cry, or have a good celly, fill up your beer with some Bud Light and some delicious pizza. I guess maybe you want to eat the pizza when it's hot before you put it in the fridge, but that Bud Light is always going to be cold and delicious. It's that easy, just like Bud Light, which is always brewed with 4 simple ingredients for a clean, crisp taste. Bud Light, it's easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly, though, 21 or up. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Vernon Maxwell.
Oh, that's a good one.
It fits.
Yeah.
You know, it just has the right
Vernon
cadence
Maxwell
to it.
sounds like NBA Jam. Like
Vernon.
I just think of NBA Jam.
Any name that can be chanted. Vernon Maxwell. I'm sure they did that at some point. But
yeah.
Like there is something special
Mookie
to a name.
Blaylock, iconic name.
Such a good name. Blaylock.
Cedric Sabalos also really strong. There's so many
Yeah.
strong names in chat. Shake Milton. Oh my God. Paul Westfall's another
Woo.
great name too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and reread the live chat whenever this stream is over and just like reminisce. All right. We're getting back into some diehard stuff. I got a couple. You wanna talk?
Let's do it.
You want to talk sports? All right, so this one is from Diehard Sarah. If you get to do or undo, and there were a couple other like what if questions, and we are having a what if week at All City. We're gonna have a whole week where we're just going down what if memory lanes.
July, right? Next month?
In July,
Yeah.
yes. I should know the date off the top of my head, and I don't. I've failed you.
Towards the end of the month, I know for sure.
Yes. If you get to do or undo one moment in Mavs history, what would it be and why? That's a good question.
Ooh, I'd missed this one, so I hadn't thought ahead on it. Did you think I had on it? Do you have one?
It's tough because if I got to do one moment, feels like unlimited possibilities. If I had to undo something,
Let's eliminate the past 2 years just to avoid recency bias and
all right.
obvious
The thing that I would
choices.
undo, obviously, is not obviously. I guess this isn't obvious, but the thing that I would undo is keep Steve Nash in Dallas or keep Jalen Brunson in Dallas. I guess both are, I think, equally bad.
Not trade for Rajon Rondo kind of falls in a very similar boat. A little bit different. I mean, that's a pretty obvious one, though.
Yeah, but that team, I loved that team more than most, but I don't think they were doing anything. They couldn't defend anyway. Like, I think they had to do something.
Fair.
I think you got to do what you got to do to keep Steve Nash, or put duct tape on Mark's mouth during the 2013 draft and just take Giannis. But if the Mavs draft Giannis, there's definitely no Luka, which means there's no Kyrie, which means there's none of the good memories that we've made over the last 7-ish years would have happened.
Yeah, the weird thing
they
about
probably would
fandom-
have been replaced by maybe even better memories, but you don't know.
Yeah, the weird thing about fandom is like you can always look back at Giannis and say that was a mistake, but I don't think Mavs fandom, like Giannis isn't the Mavericks player anymore. You know, it doesn't matter what could have been. Nobody looks back, you know, and it's like, oh, this all should have happened with this guy who is, you know, honestly, the way I look at it is like I'm so happy for Milwaukee that they had Giannis, and
I'd be happier for myself, but yeah,
okay.
that is very generous.
Well, that's the difference for me. Like, understanding and appreciating fandom, but like to some extent, I just can't view it through a fandom lens. I don't have that type of fandom anymore. So,
well, I mean, I just think from strictly a basketball standpoint, it would have been the correct thing to do.
Yeah.
In hindsight, at the time, I get it. You're trying to sign Dwight Howard or whatever. But the way that I've rationalized it with myself over the years is, had they drafted Giannis, the Mavs would have just traded Giannis like they did Shane Larkin for Tyson Chandler 1 year later to the Knicks, and then we'd be really mad. So I guess like the alternate reality is even worse than our real reality. One of the few situations where you could say that that's the case.
Here's a sneaky one with the more you think about it, the more the serious implications start to grow. And they should have kept Gerson Rosas. A lot.
The butterfly effect, it cannot be measured.
If they had installed him and not listened to Donnie and Donnie's concern and fear of, power and other people having power within the organization, a lot of the drama and the controversy, and I am strictly referring to the basketball side, but certainly just talking drama and controversy within the front office, I think a lot of that starts to be excised in a much quicker way than how it actually played out. So that's my answer, because as I'm sure I've reported this, I guarantee. But Gerson Rosas came in and wanted to modernize the front office and wanted to get rid of bad actors who took years until they actually left. And it's a bummer that it took 5 more years for the Mavericks to embrace modern basketball.
Still might not have been. They still, you still might not have on that timeline. There might not be no Luka, no Kyrie, there might not be any of that stuff too. But
yeah, for sure,
it is interesting. All right, let's burn through a couple of these. These are quick and fun.
Kenny says Dirk's knee injury in the 03 Western Conference Finals. That's just wanted to throw that out because that also crossed my mind as like a.
Do you have in this timeline? Do you have like God powers? Like, could I like protect his knee? Because I feel like that's kind of a tough one. That wasn't like a choice. That was like an event that happened to them. I don't know. I guess it's
I
our
don't
universe. We can make the rules.
Yeah.
I'll rap Dirk and bubble wrap. Backstreet Boys. This is from Baseball Adam. Rangers back? ? Backstreet Boys or NSYNC and why?
It's Backstreet Boys for me, just because I can name more songs. We kind of went through this earlier. I know a lot of NSYNC songs. I don't think I could name any. The real answer here is Fall Out Boy, though.
This man can't name a single NSYNC song. That's like a totally different genre, first off. That is insane that you would even compare them.
Yeah, but they have boy in the name.
They
so.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Backstreet Boys has multiple.
Yeah.
Fallout is one.
Yeah.
I would say
for the Mitmers.
I would say NSYNC. NSYNC went pretty hard. Backstreet Boys had some bangers. But I feel like Backstreet Boys are overplayed at every karaoke that you go to with someone that's like older than 27. And NSYNC has some like deeper cuts that are great.
I often wake up thinking to myself, am I sexual? And so,
No.
yeah. And so I have to go with Backstreet
Hell
for that
no.
reason. Oh.
This is from Mark. I think this is more a question for me than for anyone else on the show. Have y'all figured out
Anyone
which
else?
Pokemon Cooper Flagg would be yet? Well, I'm glad you asked, Mark. Now, Tanner, before you reveal, all right, before you make the reveal, this is important. So Cooper Flagg is as a Pokemon, these are his qualities, right? It's like he's very good, first off. He's very good defensively. He's very good offensively. But I don't think at this stage in his career you want him to be your best player on offense or your best player on defense. I think you want him to just be really good at both. But he has the makeup, right? He's got the right qualities, the right attributes, the right skill set, and he can be very, very dangerous when surrounded by the right kind of players. You don't want him to be the best at anything, but he's very good at everything, and he has a couple moves that can set him up and get him going.
And he's from Duke.
That has nothing to do with this comparison, but thank you for your contribution.
I can't believe there isn't a Pokemon from Duke yet.
And so I have decided that Cooper Flagg, Tanner, is Garchomp. Cooper Flagg is Garchomp. Garchomp is a very, very good Pokemon. One of the best Pokemon of all time. Dragon and Ground, great typing, immune to electric, only has a couple weaknesses. Those weaknesses, though, are very dangerous, 4 times weak to ice. But Garchomp can do everything. He's a great defensive Pokemon. He can be bulky. His ability, Rough Skin, damages you whenever you make contact with him. He can set up Stealth Rocks. He can set up Spikes. Or he can be used offensively and use things like Swords Dance or Scale Shot to boost his attack or to boost his speed. He has Dual Stab. You can use him physically or specially with Draco Meteor and Fire Blast. Physically with Earthquake and Dragon Claw. And many, many more. I think Garchomp, Poison Jab for fairies. Garchomp has moves that can beat things it's weak to. It's fast, but it's not the fastest. It's strong, but it's not the strongest. It's bulky, but it's not the bulkiest. I feel like Garchomp is Cooper Flagg, and Cooper Flagg is Garchomp.
Can I ask just a random Pokemon question?
Absolutely.
From my childhood playing a lot of Pokemon.
Yes.
Why were sometimes Pokemon duels 1v1 and why were they sometimes 2v2? What delineated that?
The official format of competitive Pokemon is 2v2.
That's what I figured because it
VGC,
adds a lot more combinations and strategy.
Yeah.
And planning
Garchomp is
to it.
not good in 2v2. It is really only good in singles.
Interesting, because you're talking about defensive and offensive, and it reminded me of the idea that you could have a defensive and an offensive pairing out there or something like that. Has it gone even further? Can you play 3v3 now? Can you play 4v4?
There are 3v3 modes, but it's kind of a joke. 2v2 and 1v1 are where it's at.
Okay.
All right. Let me
in the games that I played, which was Red into Crystal.
Yep, that existed.
Into Silver, into Ruby, or no, I guess I never played Silver, but I played Ruby and Emerald, and I think that's where I stopped. But sometimes you would just run into a trainer, and I was like, I'm gonna.
It's a double battle.
Yeah, it's a double battle. But that's all it was to it. It was just it was based off. You had no choice over it, right?
Yeah, there are entire fan hacks now where the whole game is double battles, and they're very challenging.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a big topic that we prep for that we have to get to next segment.
Yeah,
so
we're gonna. We do need to answer all of these, so we're definitely going into overtime.
Okay,
we won't be here for another hour. We're gonna be here for another little bit though.
All right. I'm gonna have to.
No more Pokemon talk. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone.
I'm gonna have to remember how to do overtime contingency. But that's okay, because we are taking our last break here, and we are going a little bit long. We're telling you right now, we've got a lot more questions from you, the listener, the diehard. Excited to answer them. Coming up right after this break.
But first, it's a great time to become a diehard. It's always a great time to become a diehard. And thank you to our diehards that have asked us the question so far. And we got even more coming up right after this. If you would like to become a diehard yourself, you can scan the QR code right beneath me, or you can click the link in the description below, or go to alldls.com, where you as well can sign up to become a diehard. When you do, you get a free shirt of your choice. We got more than 40 to choose from here. They're all excellent. You got like your classic DLLS Skyline tee. Shout out to Harry, a very loyal viewer of the show, watches almost every episode of the DLLS Mavs podcast. I got a picture of Harry yesterday sporting his new DLLS shirt.
Nice.
Yeah, so shout out Harry.
You want a really quick funny story?
Yes.
The first time I saw a diehard shirt, a DLLS shirt in public, was hours before they traded Luka.
Ooh,
Do you remember this?
rough timing.
It was that same day.
Yeah, that is rough timing.
Yeah.
That is rough timing.
An ominous. I promise the DLLS shirts do not actually cause or create bad things.
No, it's only
happen.
good things, independent of everything.
Yes,
and in fact,
but
I'm wearing my DLLS friendship bracelet that was gifted to me by Sarah, who's a diehard. Sarah gifted it to all of the show hosts and to all of the people that joined us at Cosm for a watch party we had the day of the trade deadline when the Mavs actually beat the Celtics' ass in Boston. When you sign up to become a diehard, you're not guaranteed a friendship bracelet from Sarah, but your odds dramatically increase. You also get to read the website, alldlls.com, all the written good from Tim Cato on the Mavs and all of our other beat writers on their other beats. You get to join the Discord. You get a discount on any other merch you could want. You get a discount on events such as the Cosm thing, and you also get a physical diehard card. It is very cool and powerful and impressive. It adds 15 years to your life, not medical advice, and other mysterious things that you'll only know once you are holding it in your hands.
Correct.
That's the read. That's it.
It's a lovely read.
If you don't become a diehard after that, then seriously, something is wrong with you.
Let's do the play breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
You know
do you
who it's
have
from?
it? I had it somewhere.
It's from Ben. Let's see. Ben, break down your favorite plays in Mavs history, frame by frame. So
We're gonna do one play.
no, I got two.
Oh, okay.
I got two.
Okay. I have
So-
one for sure.
So I don't. The question could be taken many ways, like your favorite moments or your favorite tactical plays. So we chose one of each. So the first one was a tactical one. My diagram, my X's and O's king, Rick Carlisle, drew up a bunch of zany stuff back in the day.
Is he gonna do it? Is he really gonna do this on Sunday?
He might win the title, man. He might win the championship. So this is from 10 years ago, the glory days of Mavs basketball before they made the trade for Rajon Rondo. So on the floor, I'm going to try and explain this if you're only listening on Spotify or iTunes, but you're going to have to just check out the YouTube channel, all right? So the Mavs have a horn set up with Brandon Wright, the GOAT, on the elbow, Dirk Nowitzki on the other elbow, Devin Harris dribbling the ball, Al-Farouq Amino is lurking on the baseline, and JJ Barea is running. It's an Iverson cut, but the Mavs would just call it two-side, or in this case, JJ was kind of the one, so it might have been called one side. Either way, it's an Iverson cut across the floor. The Mavs used to run this a lot with Jason Kidd and Jason Terry, but they would also later run it like you see here with Devin Harris and JJ Barea. So JJ is going to take both these screens as we go to this next frame. JJ takes the ball from Devin Harris, and it's immediately into an empty side. There's no player in the corner. Farouk is in the other corner now. An empty side pick and roll where if JJ gets the ball, rips through, and goes left, he's got the whole baseline to work with, and he can kick it back to Dirk to shoot the jumper. Pretty good little situation. But here's where the Mavs were way ahead of their time, okay? Rick would always say, this is more than 10 years ago, Rick would always say, you need more playmakers. Reporters back then were always like, man, why are you guys running so many like 2 and 3 guard lineups? Like, it's just really weird. And Rick was like, just trust me, you need a lot of playmakers. You need a lot of playmakers. So in this situation, the Kings have this covered pretty well. I think it's Ray McCollum and Reggie Evans. That's 2 basketball names. Ray McCollum, really good name. JJ is going to swing it back across to Devin Harris, though. This is a favorite of Istok Franco. It becomes kind of this stampede action where Devin collects the pass on this next frame, And it's immediately into a pick and roll on the right side of the floor with Brandon Wright. And so now all of a sudden the Mavs have gone from left to right. They've got a pick and pop on one side, a pick and roll on the other. Devin comes off the screen, and in the final frame, Brandon Wright, one of the best rollmen in the NBA for a very long time, is able to gather the pass, and he goes up for what would be a layup. The Mavs in this play are down 28-8. They did go on to win this game. They made a big comeback. They were basically within a few at halftime. They ended up winning the game. That was the night Dirk Nowitzki passed, I believe, Hakeem for 9th place on the NBA's all-time scoring list. But it might have been Elvin Hayes. I don't remember. Apologies.
Man.
But that's one tactical thing. Is it X's and O's? But that's nothing serious about that play. But it demonstrates the value of having two ball handlers, a big man that can shoot, and a big man that can roll. And then, of course, there's the Vince Carter play.
I wanted to talk about the Vince Carter play because it's an iconic play. It's absolutely iconic, obviously, for all those reasons. He did a game-winning, buzzer-beating shot in a series that is still so fascinating to me, the 2014 first round against the Spurs. But what was interesting about that play is that it's the exact same play Dallas had run on the last game of the season.
Yep, last
and
shot of the season. Yeah.
Also earlier that regular season, it was a play that basically had Monte Ellis peeling out over the top. We have screenshots, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I was asking Tanner to do something else. So it's a stack.
Fittingly, by the way, the spotlight is on Vince Carter. Like,
it's really funny.
They spoiled the script. Like the script writers, they spoiled the ending.
So it's a stack out of bounds. You're going to see this a lot. Rick Carlisle loves this. In fact, with the Pacers, he's been running stack that starts in the backcourt. And so Monte curls up and around, and the way that the last game of the regular season went was that Monte just got that pass, took the shot, and buried it.
No, he missed it the last game. He made it against Portland.
That's why I was confused about it.
Yep.
I had in my head, it was like something was, yes. He had hit it earlier in the year, last game of the regular season. He took the same shot and he missed it, but he had hit this shot. I went halfway down the reporting trail and at some point would like to hopefully revive it. But I actually was going to do a big old story about this entire series. And I remember talking to Corey Joseph, who Popovich tried to sub out of the game, but couldn't because it wasn't the Spurs ball. He is the guy guarding the inbounder. He is guarding Jose Calderon there. And Corey Joseph told me that they had scouted this play. And so when Jose Calderon pump fakes to Monte, he bites. He bites on it because he knows that's where the play had gone. He knows that's where the pass had gone in the past. And so he bites and he shades over. And when you see the next frame, there is enough room for that's Jose Calderon to make that pass that just like directly across the baseline, like basically above the out of bounds line. He makes just a straight chest pass over to Vince in the corner, and the play goes, and Vince knows that he had been told in the huddle. Rick Carlisle had told him that he thought the ball was going to go to Vince, or at least that's Rick's recollection from it right after the game, and he had. And Vince had said that he knew that he only had, just a fraction. Like if he was going to pump fake, it's going to have to be a quick pump fake.
I asked him, why did he pump fake?
Yeah.
Or did he know that he was going to pump fake? And he was like, I did it because I had to get some room. Like you see Manu is like, that's Manu Ginobili.
Yeah.
Jumping higher than he ever has in his entire life to try and contest that shot. And Vince got him to bite.
Yeah. The other really cool things about the play.
That's the aftermath, by the way. Just a bunch of fists.
If Vince had put his heel down, it would have fallen out of bounds, and would have been, they had reviews set up. I mean, it feels like the review system that we have now is, but yes, that like he couldn't have put his heel down. He goes off sprinting, and everybody's mobbing him right around where he hit that shot. Brandon Wright just walks the other direction, like in a daze. I asked Brandon Wright about it, like the day after that happened, and he said he was just like, yeah, I couldn't process everything. And so if you watch the video, like everybody, Mark Cuban's one of the first ones, just like in the Al Whitley is in that dog pile. Everybody's in that dog pile mobbing Vince Carter, but Brandon Wright's just walking away. He just can't believe it. And then the other really cool thing about that is that Vince Carter had a very similar shot that I believe was Game 7 and would have sent the Raptors to
missed
the
it 20 years earlier. Or well, at that point, 13 years earlier.
Yeah, and it was almost an identical shot. He missed that shot, and he wasn't with Toronto.
He said it was redemption. Yeah.
Yeah, very soon after that, and so right away, somebody, not me, but somebody in that press conference highlighted that moment. And before the question was even finished, Vince knew exactly what he was talking about. Brought it up, said, I've worked on that shot my entire career because of that miss in that moment, which up to that point, or I guess one of the biggest moments of his entire career. Really fun, really awesome career. But I certainly wish at times that for a player that cool and good and fun, that he had a little bit more playoff success. But yeah, one of the biggest moments of his career, and just a perfect coda.
And did he travel on that play?
Shut up.
No, he did not travel. He definitely did not travel on that play. Yeah, he did not. He did not travel. All right, we got quite a few more, actually. So let's see. We did the Pokemon one. I can go back to the Pokemon one if you want. Elliot
I was going to say Rayquaza.
Elliot also
I just say
asks,
that every single time because he's really cool.
Favorite Mavericks team excluding 2011. For me, probably 02-03 Mavs. They won 60 games.
I didn't
Nick
watch
Van
that
Exel,
team.
the big three. That was some incredible times.
I'd probably have to say the 2014 team. The
team
one,
was really fun.
the one we just went over. Like, that team was just a lot of fun. The 13-14 team.
That team was really fun.
Yeah.
That was some good times. I think 21-22 was really awesome for me because I loved Reggie. I loved Dorian. Dorian and Jalen Brunson are two of my probably top 5 favorite Mavs ever. Obviously, Luka was incredible that year. The Dinwiddie trade was great. Took a lot of guts to trade KP, and it worked out. Theo Pinson and Tim on the bench were just going nuts all playoffs. That was a really fun team. But 02-03 for me that was just the one.
Ben had asked us, what is a typical game day like for you when you work for the Mavs? And there's I didn't write it down, but somebody else asked about my typical game day. I think that's a great topic that we'll write down and spend a whole segment on at some point this summer.
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
Yeah. I don't think either of us could just speed through that. So.
I could. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
I just sat around and did what people told me to do for 18 hours. Elliot also asks, you guys could discuss the 05 Mavs versus Rockets playoff series. That series was incredible. So the Mavs, it was the 4-5 series in 2005. That was Dirk's first season post-Nash, becoming kind of the alpha. With weeks left in the regular season, Don Nelson just quit. Avery Johnson takes over as head coach. The Mavs at the time had Michael Finley. That was his last year with the team. They still had Jerry Stackhouse. They had Jet. They had Devin Harris. They had Sean Bradley. They had Eric Dampier. That was kind of the group. The Mavs won 58 games that year, but were the number 4 seed because only division winners got the top 3 seed. So the Mavs, despite having, I believe, either the second or third best record in the West, had to play the 5th seeded Rockets, who were very good. That was the year that Dirk and McGrady scored 101 combined in a duel. It was awesome. Rockets go up 2-0, though. They win the first 2 games on the Mavs home floor. Game 2 was the T-Mac big dunk on Sean Bradley. That dunk is like a Hall of Fame dunk. Dallas goes to Houston, though, and wins both games 3 and 4. Comes home and wins Game 5, I believe. Houston crushes the Mavs in Game 6. And then in Game 7, Dallas uncorks a 40-point belt-to-ass beatdown on the Rockets on their home floor. I believe to this day still the largest margin of victory in a Game 7 ever. The Mavs, almost 20 years later, would come close against the Suns. But that was a massive, dominant ass-kicking, capped off, I believe, by Devin Harris, I want to say, or it might have been DA. One of those two got absolutely laid TF out right at the rim on what should have been a foul and wasn't. And then the other one went down the floor and had some nasty block. I don't know, it was like a wild-ass game. It was really, really fun. The Mavs won by 40. I believe 116-76 is your final score. Mavs would then go on in the second round to lose to Steve Nash and the Phoenix Suns.
How many more we got? We taking this into overtime?
Yeah, I'll do the overtime thing.
Okay.
Hey, thank you to our TV audience watching on our FAST channels. If you want to continue the conversation, what you should do right now is go to our website. That is alldlls.com. for the latest news, convo, hot goss, and all sorts of other stuff on the DLLS Sports Network.
And
But if you're watching on YouTube, though, boy howdy,
Although we never really left.
we never did leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Club had asked me, and just inside baseball and the working life of a beat reporter show host. That's a fun topic. I mean, beat reporter, it's a lot of. I'd say the biggest thing that you don't see is there's just a lot of waiting around, because just a lot of waiting around. You wait for practices to end, you wait for players to finish treatment, you wait for players to come off the court. There is a hierarchy, and players have their time very regimented and scripted out, and it is, the media typically falls maybe not dead last, but somewhere in there. And understandably, this is not me bitching, but so it's a lot of waiting around, and it's a lot of trying and often failing to use those moments waiting around to productively. It's always been a battle for me personally. Maybe Elliot E had asked about the pros and cons of the 2 timeline approach. I've started writing. We're gonna get it scheduled this afternoon. A story about literally that for next week. We'll spend a segment on it next week about 2 timelines and the similarities and differences of, say, the Warriors trying it and a few other teams that have tried it. What other questions do you got?
Well, first off, we got a lot of good basketball names from playmakers in the chats. First off, Jack Sigma, iconic. Xavier McDaniel, underrated name. Tree Rollins, Sleepy Floyd. Like, it feels like back in the day we used to just give people nicknames. Like, Sleepy Floyd is obviously not his name, but Sleepy Floyd, and he had a great game in the playoffs one year.
So someone had asked, is Bo Jackson more of a baseball or a football name to me? Baseball, because
football.
No, it's not violent enough to be football.
Bo
name.
Jackson is an awesome football name.
The Bo is.
I will fight you about Bo Jackson's name.
Okay, well, you're being violent now. What kind of name is is Bobby Karalla?
Kerry Kittles, great basketball name.
I disagree.
Really?
I think it's a great name, but it doesn't feel very basketball to me.
It's such a 2-guard name, and that's what he was. He was a sweet shooting 2-guard.
It feels like a bowler. Like that would be like a Hall of Fame bowler or a darts player. Maybe not a darts player. Darts isn't right, but bowling or
Kerry Kittles also could be like a really seasoned soccer manager, like in Scotland.
It's as long as his playing career was as a keeper.
Yeah,
it's a goalkeeper name.
Yeah,
to me.
Okay, so there's 2 more. These are like kind of semi-serious basketball questions. So if you're stuck around, here's that good stuff. Bobby Karalla, boxing name. Ooh, nice. I like that. Only in like the 40s though. Tim Cato, soccer name.
I accept it.
Huh. Club also asks, have the finals showed y'all anything new about how you think the Mavs should build their team and or adjust their play style for the next few years?
So first segment, I talked all about. I don't think it's bad methodology to build your team with a bunch of 2-way players, and I think both of these teams represent that to some extent. But I look at OKC and I think what they're failing at is creation. I think that some of it is creation, and some of it is that when choosing 2-way players, they went more into the defensive 2-wayness than the offensive 2-wayness. And now we're seeing a situation where Chet Holmgren is absolutely vital to their defense. Their defense falls apart against this Pacers team without him on the court. And he's damn near unplayable as an offensive guy.
Yeah.
And I think scoring in deep playoff runs, I will always take the other side of that equation. I will take a player whose defense is okay, sometimes a bit of a negative, but is a certain offensive player over the vice versa. But there's no doubt in my mind that this series is proving 2-way, like a glut of 2-way role players is necessary. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But I'm also just seeing the creation, and I think some of that is, I don't know. This is when I over and over and over again talk about the Mavericks and next season and why getting a guard replacement is so important. I just don't see the creation valued quite as much. Again, we'll see what they do. So
two big things for me. One, there's so much speed on the floor.
Yeah.
Now, that might not have been the case had, let's say, Denver wins Game 7 against OKC. Obviously, Denver's super slow, so we're not having this conversation.
Boston was
but
fairly slow last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these two teams, so fast, incredibly fast. And you have to have guys that can make quick decisions and also get places quickly in order to contend against teams that are also doing that same thing. Like your criticism of Chet, I think, is correct. Now, he's still young. Maybe he'll get better or whatever, but you can just see it when he's trying to put the ball on the floor from the three-point line. It looks slow. It looks gummy. It looks real, just kind of.
Wait. I have a great spin-off of that.
All right.
I think that at the highest levels of basketball, like being fast, being athletic, it is more important to be a fast processor than a fast physical player. Because Chet Holmgren is, physically imposing and athletic, but what's happening on offense is he's not processing the game fast. Whereas TJ McConnell, in a lot of ways, should be someone that they pick at, should not be someone who gets to all the spots that he gets to. But he is such a fast processor of the game.
But he's also 30, and that's the thing. Like, the team, OKC has some experienced guys, but like the Pacers are keeping up. Siakam and TJ McConnell are both playing great, and they've both been around the block for a while. First finals for McConnell,
for sure.
But so with that comes experience. So speed matters a lot, and number two, they're both really young. These teams both have guys that are on their rookie deals. A lot of important players that are on their rookie deals, which the Mavs will kind of be able to replicate now with Cooper and Lively for the next couple years, but. OKC's got like 3 or 4 or 5 of them, and then they got some sweetheart deals for role players that are probably underpaid. And Indy has a lot of guys that are being underpaid right now. They only have, I think Siakam is on the max, Halliburton's on the max, but like Nembhard, underpaid. Nesmith, probably underpaid. McConnell, probably underpaid. Miles Turner, underpaid. So they have a lot of guys on good value deals, and they have a lot of guys on rookie contracts, and they're also very young, which means they're also more athletic and faster. They can play more. They're deeper. You have a lot of guys making $8 million. It means you can have 15 of them. If you have 2 or 3 guys making $120 million combined, then the rest of your 12 players have to combine to make like $30 million. So you can't really have much quality. It's all a bunch of dudes on minimums. Neither of these teams is playing any minimum guys. They're all playing guys that are either on their rookie deals and underpaid or on veteran contracts and underpaid. So that is a huge, huge factor. Now,
Nembhard has an extension kicking in. He currently makes $2 million.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
well, he's only going to be making like 18, which is still an underpay.
Yeah. Next season he'll make like 18.9.
Just ridiculous underpay.
Yeah.
But also, had Boston stayed healthy, their starting 5 might have been enough to win a series. Or maybe had Cleveland stayed healthy, maybe they would have beat Indy. So, again, it's hard to draw too many conclusions, but those are just 2 things that Indy and OKC both have in common. As I see it. The last one that I have, unless you have more, A-Stock16 asks, likelihood of trading back into the first round? This is something that Rafael Barlow, who's been on our show, has reported the Mavs are doing, and I've seen a lot of Trade Machine screenshots of how the Mavs get some picks.
We love Rafael, and he absolutely, listen, if he reported something, listen to it.
He's one of the most plugged in draft people on the planet right now.
100%. I still look at the Mavs cap situation and think that adding guaranteed first round money, granted, if you're trading back into 28, 29, it's not that much different than a minimum. But it is a little bit different than a minimum, and because we don't know exactly what their plans are, and maybe it's all aligned, and maybe the idea is if they were to trade back in, they know that whatever they're going to pay Kyrie is flexible enough, but they're above the second apron. They are almost certainly going to be under the second apron team, and ideally, especially when you look at last year, with some flexibility. I just find it surprising if they're going to be committing themselves to another first round draft slot, which is going to take up a little bit more of the books than a rookie, or not a rookie minimum, but what a veteran's minimum would take. unless you're trading into the very back end. And even then, I think it's still a little bit more. Maybe by the time you get to like picks 28,
It's pretty
29.
cheap. Yeah. So it gets
so maybe for those reasons, no. But and just to completely flesh out this thought, the reason specifically I'm saying that is pretty simple. The draft comes before free agency. And so Dallas has a complicated set of moves that they may not be able to make or be 100% certain are going to happen up until July 1st. And so reducing even a little bit of flexibility and maneuverability, they have to be damn sure that the player that they're trading up and trading back in to get makes sense and fills a need and solves some stuff that makes it worth the slight bit of extra headache or inflexibility that it would cause them.
It's not,
which is possible.
The salaries aren't very big. I mean, starting at the 18th pick, they only make $3.9 million their first year. You get down to there's like some Atlanta thing right now. Atlanta's at 22. That's 3.37 million. Brooklyn, I think, is like 26 or 28 or something. That's under 3 million. So that cap hit or whatever the first year is not too much more than a minimum. So you could, in theory, for the sake of this conversation, Daniel Gafford about 13 million. You can legally trade him for a guy that's making about 10 million with a pick, which gets you to basically equal value. Now, any reason or any scenario where you're trading for a pick, you're probably also going to want to get under the second apron as a result of that pick. So like Gafford for air plus a pick would only work with Brooklyn, or find a team that has some money, then you could trade them a player for a guy that makes significantly less where it's still legal plus a pick or something to help kind of cover the difference and get them under the apron. I'm always in favor of getting guys in the late first, early second, because those are really cheap contracts. You have a lot of years of control, which is why the Mavs trading the 35th pick broke my heart so much, because that guy's going to make like $1.5 million for 4 years. Pretty sweet deal, even if he's not very good. But I think the only way they'd get in the back of the first round is if they're trading PJ or Gafford for very little else other than that pick. And frankly, I'm not really interested in doing that.
Yeah. There are a lot of people around the NBA who will tell you they would always rather have the 31st pick than the 30th pick. And it honestly, like, you can play that out. I think that there are people who would legitimately value the 33rd pick over the 28th pick.
It's a great pick, yeah.
Always depends on circumstance, but the flexibility it gives you contractually, salary cap wise, where you don't have like a set salary slot that you have to sign first rounders to. That's not the case in the second round. It's just a little bit easier, which once again does bring us back to Dallas had a pick like that.
Yep. Tilo asks, can you trade into a traded player exception and get a pick too? I think so, because the player goes into the exception, so you're basically trading a player for what essentially amounts to an exception back, and then you get a pick. I'm pretty sure you can do that. I don't know, though. It might have to be you trade the player for the exception, and then you trade that pick for a fake pick, which that happens a lot, but I think you can do that. I think you can. And that's all I got.
That's all I think we got.
Oh, well, let me do one last check through the Discord real quick.
We were asked by, oh my God, I just had it. We were asked by, and now I am officially just stalling. Baseball Adam asked us top 5 fictional basketball players. We just didn't have a good answer to that one. Teen Wolf, Airbud, we got asked why former Tennessee Vols never work out for this team.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Scotty Hobson, Grant Williams, Josh Richardson. This was by Mavericks MFFL 41.
They're all bad.
Bad vibes,
I think.
What do you guys got in the water? Over
Richardson
there in
didn't really get a fair shake. That was like,
I would agree with that.
That was peak. I'm not saying this was the reality, but that was peak. Like, do Luka and Jalen know how to pass the ball kind of era? And J. Rich was not an off-ball player. That dude was not a spot-up shooter.
Yeah, there's also that was Bob's guy. And
yeah,
Carlisle. There was tension about how much he should be playing and all that stuff. I always thought that he was
much is the case with DeLon Wright and with Josh Green, also two Bob guys.
Yes. I think that's it for us. Got through a lot. Talked about Jrue Holiday. We appreciate all the questions. We appreciate everybody who is a diehard. We appreciate everybody who subscribes, supports us. Obviously, the easiest way, the best way to support the show is just to watch every day. I didn't. A little late in the show to call for this, but to pop a like in there, to engage in the comments, all this stuff. But we love all of you guys. It was a very fun Spirit week.
It was.
And we're going to have our usual crew back next week. Don't worry about that. Kevin will be back. It's a pretty
Draft
important
show.
week. Pretty important week.
Wednesday night we will be
in
live.
Dallas Mavericks history.
All of the first round of the draft, including a little bit before it starts, we will be live. Thursday night we will be live near the end of the draft, unless the Mavs make a move. We'll go live for another hour or so, maybe a little longer if something happens on Thursday. But Monday and Tuesday will be just normal daytime shows.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, supporting all week. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.